Chris here, and welcome to my channel. In today's 5 on Friday, I'm going to share with you my top 5 standalones of 2022. So before we get into my list, I thought I would do an honorable mention. So my honorable mention is Legends and Lattes. And the reason this is an honorable mention is because I didn't know whether it should go on this list or my top 5 favorite books in a series of 2022, because I've heard there's going to be a prequel. So I didn't know if it still counted as a standalone, but I didn't know if it necessarily counted as a series. So I decided to just make it an honorable mention in both videos. This is a book about an orc who ends up opening a coffee shop. So it is a cozy fantasy, and I really loved this book. I'm super stoked about the idea of there being a prequel. I just didn't know which list to put it on, so I've kind of decided to put it on both. With that being said, it is time to dive into my standalones. These are in no particular order because I don't think I can break it down. I think I had like 15 standalones that got 5 stars, which is quite a lot for me because I don't typically read standalones, and I really focused on my series in 2022, so it was quite hard to narrow down, but these are the 5 I'm going with. First up is Loveless by Alice Oseman. So this follows a girl named Georgia who ends up going to college and kind of goes through a whole lot of self-discovery where she realizes that she is asexual and aromantic, and I just related to this book so incredibly much. As somebody who is also ace, I did a lot of, oh yeah, that's me. Oh, I can relate to that. I totally understand where the character is coming from here. So I really connected to this book, and I'm so glad that I finally decided to pick it up. I was nervous because I knew what it was about, but I was worried it wouldn't hit right or that maybe it had been overhyped, but no, it is absolutely worth the hype. It was brilliant. I love this book, and I'm so glad that I got to read it this year because it was so nice to feel seen in a book. The second book on this list is The Secret Garden of 81st Street by Ivy Noel Weir. So this is a modern take on The Secret Garden, and it is told in graphic novel form, and we're following Mary Lennox, who after her parents die, she ends up moving in with her uncle, and she ends up finding this rooftop garden that's been abandoned. And this is a tech-free house, so she's really struggling because I believe her parents owned like a tech company or were involved in tech, so she is really into gadgets and her uncle is not. So she's really struggling with dealing with the death of her parents, living with this uncle she doesn't really know, and having that lack of tech. Her cousin suffers from anxiety, and he was another character I could really relate to because there were things he would say about his anxiety that I went, oh yeah, totally understand that. So this was another one where it was nice to see a bit of myself in one of the characters. I love how they updated this story and made it feel modern and relevant. I really did like The Secret Garden, but this kind of corrected the things that I didn't like about it. So I love the idea of taking classics and making them modern and updating them and sharing them with a new generation, and then also putting them in graphic novel form. And this was just a brilliant book, and there was no way I could not include it on this list. The next book I'm going to mention is The Chance to Fly by Ali Stoker and Stacey Davidowitz. In this book, we're following 14-year-old Nat, who I believe has moved to a new town. And she's in a wheelchair, and she really wants to be part of like the theater in her local town. And her parents are hesitant because she's in a wheelchair, so how could she possibly be an actress and perform on stage when she's in a wheelchair? So she ends up, without telling them, kind of joining this local production and wants to prove that just because she's in a wheelchair doesn't mean that she can't perform on stage, that she can't be part of a show, and that she can't, live her dream. And I just absolutely love the way this story plays out. I love seeing how determined Nat is to prove everybody wrong. I love seeing both the trials and tribulations of her trying to achieve that dream and realizing that it's not going to be as easy as she thought it was, and trying to persevere through all of that. I love seeing her classmates and the other people in the theater working with her and trying to accommodate her, and how sometimes that goes well and sometimes it doesn't. It was just an amazingly brilliant book that had some awesome diversity rep when it comes to somebody being in a wheelchair, among other things. And I highly recommend this book. It was quite an enjoyable read, and the audiobook is really cool because it's read by the author, and she does a great job with the narration. So the fourth book on my list is Ellen Outside the Lines by AJ Sass. So this follows a girl named Ellen who is getting ready to go on a school trip, and once she's in Barcelona, she's really, really struggling, as she is very into having everything in categories and her schedule, and this is very, very different. She's autistic, so she is struggling with that and trying to make this trip work, even though it very much disrupts her routine, and that is a struggle for her. She also is feeling some distance from her best friend, and during this trip, she ends up getting a crush on a new classmate, and all of this is kind of happening at the same time, and she learns so much about herself throughout this book. This is another book I really, really related to, and was the first time I realized I might be autistic and started to ask questions, because I saw some similarities between Ellen and myself and went, huh, I do that. I didn't realize that was something that was a characteristic of somebody who is autistic, and it led me to start asking questions and realizing, oh, I do that too, and that, and that, and that, and that. So it was very, very interesting to have this book kind of open my eyes, and it made me very, very grateful that there is this rep out there, because I think we need more of that. And I like that in this book, they really do strive to show that, like, a lot of her classmates do try to include her, despite the fact that she's autistic, because I feel like sometimes that can get overlooked, that these people are, that they're people. People who are autistic are people just like anybody else. And it was nice to see her kind of included in everything and not treated as like the person that sticks out. Not that there wasn't times of that, but like it felt like such a really good, authentic telling of how it really is for an autistic person. And I liked seeing her struggle and how she tried to navigate around this disruption and manage it, because it wasn't easy for her. So there's also a lot of other rep in this book, which I really, really enjoyed. And yeah, it was a brilliant, brilliant book. And I love that it made me discover something about myself, which is amazing. And yeah, it's just an awesome middle grade book, and I highly recommend it and encourage you to check it out if it sounds interesting. And then the last of my top 5 favorite standalones of 2022 is probably the biggest surprise, and that's The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. This is a romance set at Christmas time, following these two twins who end up swapping places after one of them bumps their head and loses their sense of taste and smell. And they're supposed to be a judge on a cooking show. So she convinces her twin sister to take her place because, well, she can't very well judge food if she can't taste it or smell it. And while her sister is filling in for her on the cooking show, she goes home to take care of the family like bakery. And they both end up meeting somebody and sparks fly, etc. I was not expecting to give a romance 5 stars, but alas, here I am. This was perfect on the bland spicy meter. It was extremely bland, which is a good thing in my book because I don't like spicy books. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just not for me. And so I love that this was really bland and felt like a Hallmark Christmas movie that I would absolutely pick up. And if they wanted to turn this into a Christmas movie, I would absolutely watch it. I just loved all the Christmassy vibes and the family vibes and the twin swap vibes and the way the romance is played out. And it was just everything I love in a romance novel. So there's no way it couldn't get 5 stars, but it was easily one of my most surprising reads of 2022 because, like I said, I was not expecting to rate a romance book 5 stars. So those are my top 5 standalones of 2022. I would love to know what your favorite standalone was that you read last year. Let me know in the comment section below. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me baked goods emojis, like things you would find in a bakery, in honor of my most surprising read possibly of 2022. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!